New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
There it is, Fiona. You should have me now. I am so what a weird. Okay. So none of what I just said really mattered. Let's start again. We'll put a note in the chat. Audio starts at 3:40. Of all the things I checked this morning, I forgot to check my microphone settings. Okay. So welcome. This time zone, this conversation, and we name this conversation for the reason that we want you to. We really do invite you to interact, comment along, ask questions, let us know what it is that's working in these conversations, and maybe in what we're sharing and what we're exploring, some of what maybe some of the sticking points are. So. What we missed with my little faux pas there, excuse me, what we missed is that this whole month we're covering chapters 14 and 15 because this is huge. So this is really a 4-part series, and it's 4 different speakers. You heard from Reverend Mark Gilbert last week. If you weren't able to be with us, I do highly encourage you to check that out later today, and that'll set the stage a little bit more than what we're doing here today. I want to touch on some of the things Reverend Mark talked about, but also dive a little deeper into it all and really look at some of the perhaps some of the more nuanced ways that these principles show up in our lives. So again, please let your friends know what we're doing here. Send out a friend, or send out a share message. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit whatever buttons you want to hit. But hold on and get ready. We're going to dive into chapters. Predominantly, I'm going to be working from chapter 14. However, again, I want to stress, Reverend Mark did a great job last week of laying out the flow of this book, The Science of Mind, and how this thing works, and not only the flow of the book, but how to dig into this chapter 14 specifically. We're going to work a little more in that. And he did a great job last week. So to touch on some of these highlights that Reverend Mark shared, and that I want to make sure we use as a basis for our conversation today. On page 191, as the law of God are broad. We're going to start here. As the laws of God are broad, so should we be in dealing with them. In this science, we believe that one's life is the drama which takes place on. Now, in this, Holmes writes 3 planes. However, we're going to add one more and make it 4 planes. So he speaks that we're operating on the physical, the mental, and the spiritual plane. For quite a long time now, I've been adding the emotional aspect of that as well in my teaching and in how I interpret this and how I work with these. So you may hear me today that refer to the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our lives. And what we're saying here is we have to be open to all of the various ways that healing may occur on any one or on any combination of these 4 planes. Following? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So I might experience a physical healing that causes a deeper emotional question. I may experience struggle in my mental life, but feel really good about my physical body and my physical experience. We should have no objection to any form of healing. Again, this is on page 191, paragraph number 3. We should have no objection to any form of healing, for anything that helps to overcome suffering is good, whether it be a pill or a prayer. We believe in any method which produces results, for each has its place in the whole. We actually use the capital letter whole there, which refers to the divine wholeness that we are all a part of. That's on page 191. So for me, this is the reminder that if my intuition is telling me, go see a doctor, I go see a doctor. If my body is telling me, take a pill, take an aspirin, take an Advil, take a Tylenol, whatever it might be, I follow that. I don't sit and pray for a divine healing, for lightning to strike, and for my headache to go away. We've learned through time that both work. And I want to take us right back to the very beginning of this book. We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible. Excuse me. That's what we're talking about. That science, the pill, and religion, the prayer, we'll talk about our specific form of that in a minute, but science, the pill, and religion, the prayer, walk hand in hand so that we may all experience, well, a life that works for all, or at least a life that works for you. So in the science of mind and religious science, and in this philosophy of new thought, we have the prayer. Our prayer is, yes, it is a prayer, but it is a very different prayer. It's not what I was brought up with in prayer. And I didn't have much experience of prayer, but I knew when I was a kid that prayer was, we're asking for something, and maybe or maybe not, it would be answered. For us, prayer is always an affirmation of truth. Fiona asked, great question. Are the 4 planes subsequential or perhaps entangled? Absolutely entangled. Absolutely. And that's a great question, because anywhere that we might perceive something as being separate from, or unentangled, or not entangled. Doing a talk on physical perfection, have a little throat scratch today. Anywhere that we may perceive something as being other than the one, other than the whole, that's where we start to create, well, conditions. That's where we start to create mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical illnesses in our lives. Now, we're going to come to this isn't something we do consciously. It's not like, oh, I want to go get a cold. Oh, I want to go have aches and pains. Oh, I want to go experience depression or anxiety or any of the mental experiences that people have. We're going to come to that a little later in our talk here today. But for me, what I have to remember is everything is working towards our healing. My healing, your healing, and that's the healing of anything that may be taking place on any of these four planes: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. So on 196, Holmes again reminds us, we live in a universe of love as well as a universe of law. Here again, here's our religion and science coming together. One is the complement of the other, the universe of love. One is the complement of the other, the universe of love pulsating with feeling, with emotion, and the universe of law, the executor of all feeling and all emotion. In this lesson on healing, then, let us remember that back of the one which we see is the divine image. Back of the one, back of us, behind us, that which we are a part of, that which creates us, that is which is our bedrock, is a divine image, an image of perfection, where there is nothing wrong, nothing broken, never could be, never will be. Stay with us. There is a perfect concept, and I'm going to change words here a little bit just to be a bit more gender inclusive. On page 196, this is at the bottom of the second paragraph. There is a perfect concept of humanity held in the mind of the universe as an already accomplished fact. But humanity is subject to the law of our own choice. There is already an idyllic, perfect Valhalla. Call it what you will. Call heaven on earth. It's already there. But what's happening is, because we have free will and choice, we make choices that cloud our perception and our perspective of that perfection. One of my favorite analogies that I've ever learned in this philosophy is the story of the dirty windows. And a man sitting outside in his kitchen one day, and he's looking outside through the kitchen window out to the neighbor's backyard, and he says to his wife, why can we not see? And she says, well, the windows are dirty. And he says, oh, okay. And he goes about his business. The next day he wakes up and looks out the window. He says, why is it even worse? She said, there was a storm last night. Windows are even dirtier. Oh, okay. He goes about his business. And this goes on and on. Eventually the man gets very, very tired of it all. And his wife says, well, it's easy. Go clean the windows. It's easy. Go clean the windows. That's what we're doing. Right? The image beyond the window is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the window has gotten cloudy. Our job as beings, human beings, is to find the spiritual practice that most resonates with our soul in order to clear the view, in order to clear the windows, so that we may see the truth that is hidden behind all the stuff. This is our collective consciousness. This is the stuff that says men do this and women do that. This is all the stuff that we have accepted as the truth of our lives throughout the length of our lives. All of it. Somebody told you were smart. Somebody told you weren't. Somebody told you were talented. Somebody told you weren't. Somebody told you this was a good idea to make it in life. Others told you this was a better idea how to make it in life. And through all of that, that's all dirt on the windows, folks. It's all dirt on the windows. And so when you begin to study these universal principles that are found not just in the science of mind, not just in this book, not just in religious, but in all New Thought traditions, and oftentimes in all traditions everywhere, because let's remember, it's all part of the whole. We can't deny any of it. Christianity, Judaism, Jainism, Hinduism, Taoism, anything. Muslim. We are all, every one of us on this planet is on a journey of cleaning windows. Some of us don't do it very often. Some of us let all that stuff get so thick that we seem to think there's that's not my neighbor over there anymore. We let the stuff get so thick that we start to think, hey, I don't know who that person is anymore. And they obviously don't think the right way, because that looks ugly. That doesn't look like what we should be doing. We let the stuff pile up to such a degree that it is incredibly difficult to see the truth. Well, this is the healing. This is the healing. This is the healing the healing journey that we are all on, to see the truth moment by moment, day by day, to get the window clean enough that it doesn't even appear there's a window. And we see conditions, but they're not lasting. If a condition pops up, if an experience pops up, we don't let it cling to the window. We get clear about it. Now, for New Thoughters, religious science specifically, and again, this is a study of the Science of Mind textbook, we use the practice of spiritual mind treatment to get clear. That's our Windex, if you will. And when the stuff builds up, we spray a little Windex, sprinkle a little spiritual mind treatment on it. And if you've ever watched Windex on a window, it does a great job of just cleaning where it runs, where gravity takes it. We use a rag to move it around a little and make sure we get all the corners and don't leave any streaks. But ultimately, the Windex does its job, with or without us. That's spiritual mind treatment. Reverend Mark shared this last week, and I want to share it again on page 198. Paragraph number 4. Treatment is the act, the art, and the science of inducing thought within the mentality of the one treating. So it is an art, an act, and a science of inducing thought within the mentality of the person that's doing the work. Can't be anybody else. And that thought shall perceive that the body of the one we're doing the work for, generally ourselves, is a divine, spiritual, and perfect idea. Treatment does not necessarily treat every organ of the body specifically, but it does declare the body to be harmonious and that every specific idea in it is harmonious. It then pays special attention to what appears as the physical disorder, or a mental disorder, or emotional disorder, or a spiritual disorder. Yes, Fiona, wax on, wax off. Exactly. We are forever doing our own work to be aware of the conditions that rise up and attempt to and cling to our window, and then using our spiritual Windex to clear that window and get a better view of what's going on in the world. On 199, Holmes continues, we leave the field of materia medica to do its own work. So he's speaking of modern medicine at that point. We leave the field of modern medicine to do our own work. Our work is done entirely in the field of the mind. Without controversy, we work side by side with any doctor the patient may desire. We, in the field of the mind, the physician in his or her own field. If this is persisted in over a period of years, the two fields will be brought closer together. This will be one of the greatest steps ever undertaken in the curative art. And we see this. So what he's saying here is, I'm not going to diagnose what's going on in your body because I'm not a doctor. But I'm trained to diagnose, we use that word lightly, but I'm trained to support you in discovering and revealing what it is that's holding you back in the spiritual, mental, emotional realms. And truthfully, we're much better in the spiritual realm than in others. So there is nothing wrong with someone in our philosophy saying, yeah, I go to my practitioner for spiritual mind treatment and spiritual support and direction, and I have a therapist that helps me with my mental and emotional stuff too. And I have a primary physician who I go to see that diagnoses what's going on in the body temple. All these things over time are coming together to work in concert. Now, that does not mean that science is denying spirituality and that we're denying this. And it's not that all these things are coming together in our own individualized experience. Remember, this truth is already there. The paradise is already there. We're just working to clean up how to see more rightly, Wow, that was crazy. To see rightly, to see truth, rather than let our eyes be clouded by the conditions. So this is already happening. We just have to be able to see it. There are religious science practitioners in every field of medicine at this point. There are religious science practitioners in every field of support around traditional medicine at this point. And in many ways, there is that old phrase that Dr. Holmes never wanted a church. He wanted people to take this philosophy into their own churches. Well, we've long wanted everyone to take this philosophy into their own businesses as well, into their own work, into their own healthcare. And over time, this philosophy has found practitioners and footholds in the death and dying experience, in grief experience, in doulas helping mothers to give birth, in all aspects of healthcare, allopathic healthcare. There is prayer. There is treatment. There is this remembrance that it's a balance of the three: the art, the practice, and the science of inducing thought within the mentality of the one treating. So as I come to recognize the deeper truth, as I come to see clearly that there is no sin, there is no sickness, there is no death, as I come to see that more clearly, then I don't deny to you, I don't tell you that if you're coming to me saying, hey, I'm not feeling good, a doctor that knows this doesn't say, well, you're fine. We're just going to. We have to be willing to play both sides of the compassion. From a spiritual level, I recognize there is nothing wrong with your experience. There's nothing wrong with your body temple, even if you got a little scratch in the back of your throat, even if you're going through something bigger. There's nothing inherently wrong. There is just a buildup of conditions that have led to an experience. And we know that through the power of spiritual mind treatment, we can backtrack the proof. We can dismantle all those conditions that you have been led to believe you were supposed to believe, and then you believe them, and then it happens. Well, we can change the belief. We spray a little more Windex on the belief. I got to remember in that movie, Windex does everything in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's a great movie. And the Windex solves everything. It's the same thing here. That spiritual mind treatment, that spray of the Windex, that moving through for myself. I don't even have to say it out loud. I can sit in the stillness and be in a place of recognizing that whatever is going on in my life is God, is the divine. On the human aspect, I may not understand it. I may not like it. But on the spiritual aspect, I have to remember, and this is all the work, all it takes. Because as soon as I move into a place of looking at a condition and recognizing I have the power to change that condition, I grab my Windex. I go into prayer. I go into treatment. I remind myself there's only one thing going on, and that thing is God's life. And that one life that is perfect is my life. It is your life. It is all life right now. So we have the power to dismantle any condition. The fun part is there's 7 billion different people on the planet. If 6 billion of them believe in poverty and lack and in war, we're still going to experience that collectively. But if just 1 billion of those people believe strongly in the peace and wipe away those conditions, that sense of condition, then maybe those billion open up the eyes of the next 500,000 or 500 million or this, or following along. This is how we create a world where we all recognize the world is working for us because it's already perfect. Page 201. Human is man and woman are fundamentally perfect. This is our whole premise. Perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. The whole basis. Holmes says of our argument, I say of our proof. Always mentally separate disease from the one suffering from it. So no matter what the disease is, dis-ease. I'm not feeling ease around my financial experience. I'm not feeling ease around my relationship experience. I'm not feeling ease around my emotional, physical, spiritual experience. We are mentally separating the dis-ease from the person, whether it's myself or treating for another, from the person that appears to be suffering from it. In mental practice, never locate the disease because thoughts are things. Separate the belief from the believer, from the spiritual one. For the spiritual one has no disease, and you are talking about is the spiritual human. We separate. This is that denial phase in treatment that says, no, that is not the truth. I say that all the time. People come to me and they say, well, this, you got to go through this to get to, no. That is not the truth. So let's separate the mentally constricting belief or dis-ease from the one that has that. Because if I connect that dis-ease to you, then that makes you the body of the dis-ease. That makes you wrong. That makes you less than. That's the separation. I cast that aside and I see before me the perfect vision of a perfect human. And now all I've got to do as a practitioner is support you in coming to that same realization. And the fun part is I can't sit here and say, yeah, just get over it. You're perfect. Get on with your life already. You have to say that. You have to come to the place of saying, I recognize the perfection within me. I recognize the wholeness within me. On the bottom of page 204, Right thought, constantly poured into consciousness, will eventually purify it. Right thought, constantly poured into consciousness, will eventually purify it. You can try this on your own. Go out in the backyard, grab yourself a glass of water, go dig up a spoonful of dirt and put it in there. Now, it's going to take a long time and a lot of water, and you probably don't want to do this because we don't want to waste water, but drop by drop, the more water you add, you will come back to pure water and not cloudy water. We put more Windex on the windows. And we continue to use that Windex until we have a clean and clear healing. In the later parts of this chapter, Holmes talks about some pretty important things, and I want to touch on them before we run out of time here today. And please do remember, you're more than welcome to ask any questions you might have as we go along. There is no perfect treatment, because every treatment, every prayer has to be unique and individualized for the person that is speaking the word. And here's what I've learned over 20 years of testing this. I am no longer surprised or flabbergasted when something I say at 1 o'clock manifests at 1:30 or 2 o'clock or 1:05. Because when we send our word into the universe, into these universal principles, into the universal law, when we send our word, our thought, our feeling, our emotional, our everything, when we send that into the universe, well, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't stop it. Once you speak that word, it is out there, and by the law of the universe, the creative power must take that and create something from it, whether it's an experience or a form, whether it's an event in your life, or whether it's an intuitive flash, or whether it's stubbing your toe to remind you to fix the door jamb. Whatever it might be. And in fact, in the very act of it, in the very act of speaking, we are activating these universal principles to operate upon that prayer, upon that treatment, upon that spiritual mind treatment. So there is no power in the universe that could possibly oppose this, our treatment. There's nothing that can stop it. Not even ourselves. So if you've been around New Thought, you might hear people say something and then go, erase, 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 cancel, cancel, cancel. Not going to work. Because your thought, your prayer is already out there. Now you can do a second, you can always treat again. But just going cancel, 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 erase doesn't, I don't think people believe that. I think that's a cop-out. We can be willing to change the thought pattern that brought forth the idea that we want to cancel. Whatever idea it was, whatever thought it was, whatever saying it was, whatever accusation or judgment it was, just saying cancel isn't enough. I have to go back and look at what are the belief patterns in my own life that created me saying that. And then I can change. Then I can speak a new word, speak a new treatment. Fiona's adding, a movement of mind is a movement in mind. Yes, exactly. And notice the capitalization there. You got that right, Fiona. Very good. Small m mind is the human mind. Capital M refers to the divine or God's mind. So a movement in the human mind must move the divine mind. And it's not creating from there. It's not acting. It's revealing that great underlying truth as a reflection of what we've just put into the mind. So on page 212, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph. Anybody that's ever taken practitioner training probably knows this paragraph very, very well. If you haven't, no big deal. You're going to get it. It's a great teaching. Healing, and this is what we've just been talking about, is not creating a perfect idea or a perfect body. It is revealing an idea which is already perfect. Healing is not a process. It's not something we go through. It is a revelation through the thought of the practitioner to the thought of the patient. There's a revelation. I'm not real big on that word patient there, because I don't, to me, that implies a sickness. I don't think you're sick when you come to a practitioner for physical healing. I think you've just forgotten. You've let the stuff build up on the window. I just happen to have the Windex. And I'm not going to spray it at you. I'm going to hand it to you and let you spray the Windex. That's another talk. Healing is not creating a perfect idea or a perfect body. It is revealing an idea which is already perfect. Healing is not a process. It is a revelation through the thought of the practitioner to the thought of the patient. There may be a process in healing, but not a process of healing. The process in healing is the mental work and the time it takes the practitioner to convince themselves of the perfection of the patient. The length of time it takes the patient to realize their perfection. That is the process in healing. The process of healing implies that you're broken and there's something wrong and we have to change it. And we're that's traditional medicine. The process in healing is just simply the time and attention that I, as your practitioner, and you as your own practitioner, have to give for you to come to the realization of the dynamic truth, of the ultimate truth. Now, we focus a lot in this chapter and in these pages on the physical aspect, but I want everybody to remember this covers all 4 of our primary aspects: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So if I'm having a tough time recognizing God in my life, recognizing the spiritual nature of myself, I don't have to change the thought I'm having. I don't have to have a process of healing that doubt or disbelief. There is a process in coming to truth again, because the truth has never been absent. We can't discover anything, people. We can rediscover a lot. But when you came onto this planet in this body form, until your parents started to teach and condition you, you knew all this. You knew that everything was perfect. And everything was exactly as it must be. And then stuff starts to build up until we learn to use the Windex. It is the length of time it takes you and I. And truly, you don't need me if you can do it yourself. But a practitioner, a minister, were trained to support you in seeing that truth, in seeing that ultimate reality of who you are, who you've come here to be, and the perfection that already is. When you listen to, if you follow my talks and many of the places where I talk about, all we're on is a journey of revelation. That's it. we're forever and constantly revealing our own belief in the experience of life. Before I go today, I want to share with you a story that it feels kind of silly, actually. But it also feels like it's a hell of a demonstration of this process. Shortly after finding the science of mind, shortly after engaging with this community, within a couple of years of being inside a Science of Mind church and center, there was a great movie released. Well, some will debate the greatness, but I see it still as greatness. There's a great movie released called The Secret. Now, if you were familiar with this philosophy, it was real easy to immediately say, well, there's no secret. It's not a secret. That's what we teach. This isn't a secret. But it did a lot of good to expose a lot of people to these universal principles. And I don't remember which presenter it is. I guess I should go back and watch the movie and make sure I get it right. But I don't remember which presenter it is. But they were talking about, in their previous life, all they knew was that bills came in the mail. And they dreaded going to the mailbox because every time they went to the mailbox, bills came in the mail. And they said they just visualized checks coming in the mail. And every time they'd go to the mailbox, there'd be checks in the mail. Now, this sounds like, topically, it's a very simplistic demonstration of our philosophy. And truthfully, it takes a while for many of us to dismantle the old ideas. The windows are dirtier than we realize. And it takes time. And it takes time. It takes time. That's the process in healing. And personally, I didn't even, I saw that. Oh, yeah, that's cute. Wouldn't that be nice? Da, 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 da. What about my life? Never thought about it much. But there was a seed planted in that. There was a belief planted in me that I have been nurturing and reminding myself of for close to 20 years now. And I'll tell you, rarely does a day go by where there isn't a check in the mailbox. Might be for my wife, might be for one of the kids, might be for me personally, might be for the ministry. And yes, there are days when there's nothing but junk and, oh, there's a bill or that. But truthfully, we put most of the bills on auto pay at this point anyway, so we don't get bills in the mail. We go paperless and let the computers take care of that. That's part of a demonstration as well. Everything on auto pay. And trust and know that there is always more than enough for you, and everything showing up just as it must. So my wife and I laugh now that we're that guy where every day one of us goes out to the mailbox and we come in and we're singing checks in the mail, we got checks in the mail. And almost pretty much every day, checks in the mail. It's not something we did. It's not a prescribed, do this, do that, do this. It's just revealing the truth that's already there. We are abundant beings and we are abundantly sourced and supplied. And how that money shows up, I just focus on what it is we're working towards, what it is I want to experience, what it is, and let God take care of the how. Let the divine take care of the how. I treat and move my feet. I treat and I follow the inspiration that is revealed through those treatments. I treat and I witness the demonstrations in people's lives, in my own lives, in the lives of my family and friends. And it is glorious. And it is heaven on earth. Folks, I know most of you that are watching this program already have an understanding of spiritual mind treatment. I encourage you to expand that, to deepen that, to practice that unceasingly, no matter what. There's nothing too big or small for our mental treatment, for us to take just a moment and recognize that what is in front of me right now is absolutely must be of the divine, must be God, must be the divine taking form and shape. And so that must be a part of everything. And you must be a part of that. If we're all part of this oneness, then what is revealing itself is absolutely perfect. And I can make a claim for what I want to experience, more peace in my world, more peace. And it must, by the laws of the universe, our prayers must be manifest, must demonstrate. And if they don't show up the way I thought they should, then I change my thinking. Because what's showing up is a revelation of the divine perfection, is a revealing of the natural divine perfection that is always there and can never be changed. And we're just stepping more fully into that. And if what shows up is not what I want, I change how I think about it. I change how I approach my life, my health, my wealth, my well-being, my abundance, my prosperity, all of it. At the end of the day, I'm forever reminded it's all good. Life is good. Love is good. What's showing up in my life is good. And if I don't see it that way, hey, we can do something about that. Now, please remember, this is not to say that we do not experience physical pain, that people do not experience suffering. All those things are real. They are absolutely real. But they don't have to be our experience. We can transmute the pain, the suffering, the hurt, the judgment. We can transmute all of that simply by revealing the truth that is behind those dirty windows. Grab our spiritual Windex and get ourselves to work. Folks, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. We are just about out of time. We normally do have a question and answer period here. If you do have questions, by all means, I'm happy to sit around and chat a little bit more. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being a part of this. And I want to remind you, we're not done here this month. We still have chapter 15 to do. And that is going to be a big part of what we're talking about in the next couple of weeks. So please plan to come and join us again. Let me see what my schedule says we've got. We are yet to confirm who our speakers are for the next 2 weeks. So we'll see who that is. Because what I know is it'll be perfect. I'm Rev Robert. This is the New Thought Media Network. We're with you every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, right here for our Science of Mind and Spirit conversation series. We invite you to please invite your friends. Let some people know what we're doing here and how these conversations are serving you. I do invite you to check us out on YouTube, and you can do a search for hashtag New Thought Media Network, all one word, or a hashtag SOM Saturday. Should find us as well, and catch up on some of the past broadcasts if you haven't seen them. Again, last week with Reverend Mark really set a platform for all of us to more deeply understand not only this book and this philosophy, but how to use these principles. I trust that I've provided some of that as well, and I know in the next couple of weeks we'll provide more and more. I'm Rev Robert. I'm going to get out of here. Before I do, though, I invite you, please help me say thank you. Thank you to our committed givers and our sponsors. Take one more moment. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you Center for Spiritual Living Seattle for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of our committed givers and sponsors, the folks that make this happen financially and keep all this going. If you'd like to get your name on the movie, please head on over to the website, ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button and make it a monthly donation. We'll get you added into the next version of the movie. And I just realized one of my newer friends, I don't even know if we can call each other friends yet, but a newer acquaintance and part of the network, Carol Lawrence, is with us today. Hello, Carol. Glad you're with us. If you're not aware, on Monday mornings at 11 o'clock, Carol is part of a dynamic duo. She and Reverend Bill Marcioni get together and they record their podcast. So this is kind of like a behind the scenes. You get to see how they get set up on the video broadcast. And then at a certain point, they hit the buttons and they start recording for their audio podcast, and then stick around a little bit with questions and answers afterwards. So I invite you to join us on Mondays at 11 a.m. for the practical prayer with Reverend Bill Marcioni and Carol Lawrence. Carol, thanks for being with us today. Carol's got a great and deep history in religious organizations and has been a minister of a few different churches and is now in her exploration of New Thought. So it's great to have you with us here today. I want to say thank you to Fiona for being with us all the way from Geneva, Switzerland. It's your Friday evening, your Saturday evening there, so I appreciate you being with us. Wayne from Calgary, wouldn't be the same without you, brother. Glad you're with us. And for those that are watching but have not chatted along, hey, that's okay. I just don't know your name or who you are unless you make a comment. So I'm Rev Robert. I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you for being with us. Come back and join us again. We'll be here doing this next Saturday. And of course, with all of our programming here on the New Thought Media Network. Until next time, I wish you peace and richest blessings.